To begin, we're going to discuss food chains. So food chains are sequences of organisms illustrating who eats who in a biological community. And so for our example, we're going to look at these 4 organisms. So grass, as we will learn later, is going to be our primary producer, which is then going to be consumed by the mouse, who is a consumer, and then the snake, and then the owl. So we see this linear progressive of who is eating who. However, it is often more complex than that in a real-life situation, and that's where we come up with the concept of food webs. And so food webs are networks illustrating how organisms are connected in regards to food consumption in a biological community. And so for our example, we can still use that base food chain of the grass to the mouse to the snake to the owl. So we will actually often find that food webs have plenty of food chains within them. And so furthermore, we see that grass is consumed by deer and grasshoppers and caterpillars. And then in turn, those caterpillars will be consumed by snakes and blue jays. Grasshoppers will be consumed by blue jays. And we can just keep making these connections. And so this also relates to the concept of herbivory, omnivory, and carnivory. So herbivores are going to be our grasshoppers, for example, which are only consuming plants. Omnivores are going to consume both plants and animals. And the carnivores are only going to be consuming animals. And so we see that we can take each of these organisms and place them within one of these categories. So if we wanted to continue with examples, deer could be placed in herbivores. Omnivores could include blue jays, because we can make this connection as well. And carnivores will include hawks. For this section of the video, we're going to discuss trophic levels. So trophic levels are the positions organisms occupy in a food web. And so we see that there are going to be 5 different trophic levels in our trophic pyramid. So to begin, we have the primary producers. And the primary producers are going to be the autotrophs. And so we see that the autotrophs are going to convert energy from their environment into energy into themselves, from light energy, for example. So in our word parts, we see that auto means self, and troph means energy. And so our producers are going to create energy themselves. And so our second level on the trophic pyramid are our primary consumers. And so primary consumers are going to eat primary producers. And so we already see the energy moving up the food web. And so consumers are going to be creating energy from others. So we have hetero, which means others, and trophs, which means energy. And so again, we see that the word parts mean consumers are going to get energy from others. Next on our trophic level are going to be the secondary consumers. So our secondary consumers are going to in turn eat our primary consumers. And then working up, we have our tertiary and our quaternary. And so we just see our energy is moving up the food web. However, this energy process is not completely efficient. We do see that energy is lost. And so, for example, if we look at the biomass, so biomass is going to be the total amount of living tissue. And within our biomass, there is energy. And so in order to get energy, consumers have to eat biomass from trophic levels beneath them. And so, for example, if we start with 20,000 kilocalories, which is our energy unit, per meter squared, which is our area, per year, which is our time, we will see that that number is going to shrink as we move up the trophic period. And typically, this number shrinks by 1/10. So if we start with 20,000 and we take 1/10 of that, going to be a similar amount. So again, we're going to do 1/10 of our 2,000 number, and we will have 200 kilocalories. And then again, 1/10 of that will be 20, and another 10th of that is going to be 2. So a thought example for you all is if you start with 1/5 kilocalorie per meter squared per year. How many, if you work your way down, will there be with the primary producers? So we discussed that energy is lost, but how is it lost? We see that it's lost in the form of heat. And so at all levels in this trophic pyramid, energy is going to be lost to the environment as heat. And another component that we haven't discussed yet is the decomposers. So decomposers are going to take waste from these trophic levels and convert it into energy for themselves. And so we see energy moving from the quaternary, tertiary, secondary, and primary consumers, as well as the primary producers, to the decomposers. To apply our trophic pyramid, we're going to look at a prairie ecosystem. And so our primary producers in a prairie are going to be grasses, for example. That grass will then be consumed by grasshoppers. Those grasshoppers will then be eaten by blue jays, a type of bird, and those blue jays will be eaten by snakes. The snakes will then be eaten by owls. So as we see, there are different animals that fit into each different trophic level. And as we move up them, we see that the animals become carnivorous.